What's up, tribe? Yanni here. We're filming for Unit TV and the Sound of Movement podcast. Hello to all the people listening on the podcast that will be up later on next week. We are super excited today. We have quite literally, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, the strongest guy in the country under 110 kilograms.
You are now?
I am. It's official. It's official. This is awesome. This is going to be unreal. We're going to talk strength and powerlifting and quite frankly a lot of things that Rad and I don't know a lot about. So we're super excited. Let's get this intro real pumping so we can get started. See you soon. Rock and roll. So today we have a special guest, Australian strength coach. We're looking at this one up there. Here he is. And we're going to be talking, I don't know, a lot of stuff really. I'm quite excited about this. So,
well, I'll give, do you want me to give him a little intro?
Yep. Yeah. We've also got, obviously my brother Rad on the show. He's just really filling in space because we had an extra chair.
I actually am for this interview. Yanni is, I think he's going to be driving this one because he's got a stronger history with you. He's known you for longer, and Yanni's got some really cool questions for you. But for those of you that don't know, this is a good friend of ours, Sebastian Oreb, also known as AKA Australian Strength Coach, and now officially the strongest man in Australia under 110 kilos. So you just won which competition on the weekend, was it, Bass?
So the federation is WRPF, but it's my friends that own the federation, and I've been competing 2 times per year. There's one massive one, which is the Arnold's. It's called Pro Raw. And then my second competition that I always do is this. It's definitely smaller than Pro Raw, but it doesn't mean I take it less seriously. So that was the Nationals. And finally, something I've been working towards for many, many years. I now own the 110 kilogram all-time total record. I'm allowed to say that. You guys are allowed to say that. Yeah. And the reason I'm saying it like this is because it's probably going to go real quick. It's just so competitive at the moment, and I'm going to milk it while I can.
Yeah. What was your total weight?
So it's 940 kilogram total.
Yeah. So for those people that don't know powerlifting, can you explain what that means?
So powerlifting's made up of 3 lifts: squat, bench press, deadlift. You get 3 attempts at each lift. So the heaviest of the 3 attempts is what goes down towards your total. So my heaviest squat was 372.5 kilograms.
Sorry, can we just pause on that for a minute? That was 372 kilograms. Just wrap and a half. Yeah. Just wrap your head around that, folks, for a minute.
I've got to wrap my head around it as well. It's completely unrealistic to me as well.
I can remember. I'm just going to jump in here. Bass used to be a personal trainer at Unity Gym when we first started 5 years ago, and I remember at the back of the gym when Bass did his first rep at 300 kilos and how fucking stoked he was.
Not squatting.
That was deadlifting. Yeah. That's right.
I remember the heaviest you was 250.
Yeah, squat.
Yeah,
I squatted 260 actually.
260
yeah, 6 blues,
gym.
6 blues on one of these close
racks.
We could almost hardly fit it on the barbell, but
so that's 110 kilos more. Wow. Yeah. Anyway.
Back then you were squatting deeper than you are nowadays.
Yeah, very different technique.
We'll talk about that in a sec.
So anyway, keep going with the powerlift. So that was your squat. You got
372.5, which is an all-time Australian record. That's why I went for. Otherwise, if the record didn't exist, I'd have just gone for 370. So it pushed me to go a little bit more. So then bench press was 240 kilograms, which is another all-time Australian bench press record.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I do.
Well, that's the funny thing is that's probably my strongest lift of all of them.
Yeah, really.
My squat's very strong, but
240.
240. Comparative to the
rest of the country. What were you doing when you were back here? I think you were doing like 180 or something.
No, I was doing 200 for reps. Yeah. The best I did was, I believe, 200 for
3 reps back here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. And then deadlift. It's funny to say it and it's stupid to say it, but that's my weak lift. That's 327.5 kilograms. So that lets me down usually when I'm up against the best guys in the world. So when I compare myself to the best guys in the world, squats and bench presses, you can compare me to them, but then, we've got the best guy on the planet who just out-totaled me on the same day by 100 kilograms. His name's Yuri Belkin.
Wow.
He's got a 400, he deadlifted 410 kilograms on the weekend.
Jesus. So at the 110.
At 110, yeah. Wow. So it's like, I'll come up against him, we're kind of side by side, and then deadlift comes and it's
And why is that? Why do you think that is?
So there's a few things that they say, and in powerlifting, big bench press, small deadlift, and vice versa. It's the mechanics, and I mean, it doesn't. Not necessarily the case with everybody, but it certainly is for me. I feel like I've got pretty short arms, which is a fantastic advantage for my bench press. Yep. But when it comes to the deadlift, I watch some of the greatest deadlifters and I look at their technique and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm doing that. Then I look at my style when I compare my videos, and I definitely bend down a lot further to grab the bar. I am traveling a little bit further, but it's not to say that I can't still improve my deadlift. Yep. But definitely the best benches in the world, like I got the best bench in Australia and I got short arms. Like it's kind of, that's what you'd expect to see. And the best deadlifters in the world also have fantastic mechanics for that movement. And same with the squatters, short femurs and big round bellies. So they bounce better and, silly things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So lucky that it's all come together, and it doesn't really matter what you specialize in. But these days, everyone specializes in all three. Yeah, that's who the best guys in the world are now. And if you fail at one of them,
well, there'd be an element. I guess there'd be an element of having the perfect genetics. At your level, genetics has to play a role.
Absolutely, it does.
Like if you come up against someone with the perfect mechanics spread across all three of those lifts. Yeah. You're fucked, really.
Absolutely, and as we're saying, the body shape and type and all of these things definitely contributes massively. Yep. But then you've got a lot of other attributes as well. Something that I've been thinking a lot about, and it's I guess it's a bit of a change of topic, but there's a lot. You guys know my wife Felicia and her sister. They've got a women's only Fitspo, account where they're. Yep. Right now, there's a whole thing about Fitspo being a really negative term. Basically because it's giving the wrong image and basically telling people that it's unrealistic. Bullshit. It's unrealistic lifestyle. Yep. And people are looking up to, the Lawrence Simpsons, the Hattie Boydles of the world, who are basically live and breathe training. Yep. And it's kind of unachievable because everyone has jobs. Well, I guess it's the same on my end of the spectrum as well. What I do for a living is I come into the gym after I drop off my daughter. I have breakfast at my leisure. Straight after that, I go and do a poo, have a shower, train whenever I want, for as long as I want. I've got a team of coaches and athletes that surround me through every single session. Yep. No one gets in my way. And then after I'm a little bit tired, I'll stop and I'll have my next meal waiting for me. And then I'll rest a few hours and I'll come back and train in the afternoon. It's so you got genetics. Then you've got, I guess you could say hard work, but it's not just the hard work. I'm able to put 100% of my focus into this, which is a huge advantage.
Yeah. But hang on, I want to say, because this came up in conversation just yesterday when we were reflecting back after seeing you perform on the weekend. Mm-hmm. People will say, oh yeah, he's got good genetics, or he's got this, or he's got this great circle around him. But you fucking grinded. Like if we go back 12 years or 15 years when we made that when you made that transition from sort of kickboxing and martial arts into powerlifting, when everyone else was into bodybuilding, I was still training with your bro and at Fitness First, and we were all trying to be sort of bodybuilders. I guess that's how we trained. Yep. You copped a bit of shit for going into powerlifting, and you did your time. Like you've done it day in, day out for the last 12 years. So there's a fuckload of grit and hard work that's gone into that. Yeah. And that's not just I guess discredit. You've got to have all those pieces of the puzzle that come together, and then it comes together in the perfect package. Mm-hmm. But you'll get to a point where you're at now, I guess what I'm saying is where you've got guys that are going to be anatomically gifted for deadlifting, and it's going to be very hard for you to pull a 400 or a 420 off the floor.
Definitely. But thanks for recognizing that. I've put my time in. Definitely, you and I are the old buggers of the area, I guess. All of us, 15 years in the industry, all from North Sydney. We've seen each other kind of all of us grow together in our own different ways. But I've definitely put in my time.
And it hasn't happened overnight, that's for sure.
But it's not just like what you said about about the way that you train, and you go to work and you eat and you train and then you rest, eat again, train again. Like that is a product of the way that you've steered your life to create the results that you're creating now. And I was having a chat to Richard just the other day, our other business partner, and I was talking about how grateful I am that we now have this job where it's programmed into our day that we train twice a day. So we do strength training in the morning and mobility and movement in the afternoon. And I've had that dream for as long as I can remember. Like when I used to do Kung Fu, and my teacher used to tell me how many hours a day you have to train to get better. And I used to think, well, how can I do that? Like, I have to go to work from 9 until 6 or whatever it is every day. And he said, look, Rab, this is what it takes to get good. I don't know how you do it, but if you want to get to where you want to be, this is what you got to do. And I could never train twice a day back then. It was just too hard to train before work and after work. So I used to train after work every day for anywhere from sort of 2 to 4 hours, but it was really hard to train for that long. So it is this whole lifestyle that you've created that's gotten you to where you are. And yeah, man, it's a testament. I mean, look at what you've just done on the weekend. It's unreal. You know?
Thank you.
It's awesome.
This is actually something I'd like to talk to you about and steer the conversation, if I may. I'd love to know what your rituals are like. Like, we talk about this a lot here with our guys, and you wouldn't know this, but our program now is 5 days a week. You know, I remember hearing either you or someone having a talk to your one of your clients whilst you were working in here a few years ago. And you said, if you want to get decent results, you've got to train every day, brother.
I remember the conversation. I asked every one of the trainers here, how many days do you train? How many do you train?
Yeah.
And everyone said 5 and 6.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Over the years, we've actually migrated to not giving people an option. If they want to come play here, it's a 5-day-a-week program. And we do also train on Saturday morning, but it's kind of an open mat where we train and we invite them to come in and train with us, you know. You've, cultivated this tribe, which absolutely you would, and this is something I talk about with our tribe here as well. Your tribe plays a big role in the energy and the type of training and your motivation on a day-to-day basis. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because that's one thing that you've done insanely well. If you want to get strong and you want to lift at your peak, there's no better way to train, no better place to train in Sydney because of this reason. Yeah. Let's talk about your tribe and the way you've built that.
Yeah, so it's a lot of the things. It's about the reputation that we've built based on, I guess, doing our time, its experience, and leading by example. I've trained as you guys have. We work towards a goal and you achieve your goals and whatever, and then. I started with social media, I guess, after my wife did, and she developed a great name and a great business through her social media, and she kind of encouraged me to open an Instagram account, which I didn't want to do because I was, I opened an account, I had no likes, I had no followers, and it's like, this is boring. I post something and no one likes me. Yeah. I don't have a pretty hair and a nice bum. Well, I do, but I think that. But slowly that grew, and I guess it was right time, right place kind of thing, where I was kind of one of the first people around the areas that were like around North Sydney, or actually I'll even go as far as to say in Australia, that was a coach as well as an athlete that had a great product and that was promoting themselves through social media as well. Yep. So I was kind of one of the first to put themselves out there and start building an audience. And I actually started training professional athletes for free. So my first professional athlete was an MMA fighter. His name was Ian Schaefer. Yep. I'm not sure if you guys have met him, but after I trained him, I got my next professional athlete, who was Junior Talapau, who was a pro boxer, one of the best in Australia. Yep. And then from him, I had my next pro, and powerlifters and boxers and rugby players. And it's mainly because, I will take a bit of credit that I was good at what I did, but I was probably one of the only ones known in the area that was doing it. I was known as the guy that was training the pros. So not many other people were known as that. So where did these people go to? So they came to me. And then after that, I opened my gym at Base Gym, and I knew the end result. I knew what the picture that I wanted to paint was, and that was to be surrounded by the best guys on the planet. Yep. And I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I knew that there was advice that I was given by many people that were, gym owners about, capitalizing and over-capitalizing in gym equipment. Yep. And it was a huge decision that I've made, and obviously you guys have as well. And it was to spend lots and lots of money on the best equipment. So I got the best brands. I got Alico because I thought with my end result, the picture that I wanted to paint, it couldn't exist with anything less. Yep. Yep. So, that was a huge player in my success as a leading strength coach, was paying a lot of money to have a premium facility, and all of a sudden you're standing next to an Alico facility with Watson dumbbells and the best equipment that money can buy. Even if they didn't know my reputation, people would look at me and say, who's that guy? I've got to go and train over there. So if it wasn't my ability as an athlete, it could have been my, me training all these professional coaches. And if it wasn't any of that, it was having the facility with the equipment that everyone needed. Yep. So I did everything that I could to attract all the right people. Yep. So that's, a lot of it, I'm not taking credit for being good at what I do to some degree, because a lot of it isn't necessarily how good I was, but it was how good I was marketing myself, and the equipment that I used. It was attractive for a lot of people to come and train at my gym. But I also lived up to the reputation of the equipment and the social media presence and all of these things as well, by putting in the time and busting my ass and being good at what I did, and achieving world-class results. So it all came together really nicely, and now it's it's good and bad, but a lot of the great lifters want to come to me and train with me, which is my team now. I've got a great team of high-level athletes that are just all as strong and stronger than me, and these are the people that push me on. They call me their coach, but they're also my coach as well, and that's a huge part of my success as a lifter and a coach as well. Is just being surrounded by all of this, and it's all kind of just growing in that direction. But when I say it's good and bad, the bad part is it's very intimidating, and that's something that you guys would know very well. When you've got huge, guys all with muscles and lifting crazy weights, from a money-making perspective, a lot of people wouldn't step foot in my doors because it is just far too intimidating, and I'm aware of that. And but that's the niche that I've got, and that's the life that I like to live. And I'm able to make money through different means now than just gym memberships. And if it was my only means of income, gym memberships, I'd be bust.
Man, look, you've kind of got the blueprint that I read about in books. Like I follow Gary Vee, who we spoke about before we came live, and you're doing exactly what you're passionate about. You're effectively living your passion, and because of that, you're fucking good at it because you love going to work every day, you know. And you also you've marketed it well. I mean, he talks about documenting the process, and when you think about it, you did that perfectly. Like if you throw back to 15 years or 12 years ago, Walker Street lifting days, you guys documented daily, everything, and it was your wins, your losses, your missed lifts. Like a lot of people, if you look at their Instagram feed, and this is what I really, really love about you guys, you document irrespective of whether you document when you learn, and if that's a failed lift, then you talk about it and you say, this fucking sucked. It felt like shit. This is why, It's not just, here's all my perfect shit. Look at how awesome I am. You're doing everything. And that's, I guess, the perfect formula, It's just documenting the process.
Yeah, so it's interesting that I guess that term has been coined, as you're saying, I'm documenting the process. And that's a marketing strategy that's been promoted, or a blueprint that's been promoted by, legends of this field, such as Gary Vee. Something interesting is we had we get all sorts of people that walk into our gym and inquire about memberships, and I had this one lady who said to me, I follow your shit and I really want to be part of it. I'm like, cool, so do you lift? And she said, no, I'm in marketing. I don't want to be part of the lifting. I just want to know your strategy behind your marketing. And I'm just intrigued by this whole thing that you've got going on. I'm like, wow. Marketing? No. There's none of that. I lift, I record, I post. Good or, as you say, good or bad. It's just documenting what I'm doing, and I guess it's kind of done by accident. But that's right. That's what I do. I document it, and a lot of the reasons why I post a lot of the things that I post, it's like, okay, I want to know where I was this time last year. I need to compare myself, 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, 8 weeks out. So that I can see if I'm improving, and that's the best way. I'll just scroll back to my last competition, and I'll see the dates and I'll watch the videos, and that's the best way of comparing myself to myself. But that's it all works, whether it's for marketing purposes, for my own documenting, which helps me train myself. But it's all coming together, and it just so happens to be,
the perfect strategy.
The perfect strategy.
I want to jump in here because this week is our testing week in Unity, and what we do, we're rolling out this initiative where we document. So once a month, we test we don't do 1 RMs with our guys, we do 3 RMs because we want to try and encourage them to only do 1 RMs a few times a year, just because of how physically taxing it is. A lot of these guys break otherwise. They don't have quite the balance that we do, where they get enough sleep and all that sort of thing, the recovery strategies. But we do our 3 RMs, and I want to just shout out to all the guys that are doing that are watching this, or that do watch this. Rad was like, come on, you got to get your phones out, you got to film this. Don't just write it down what you're lifting, because filming, you get to see technique. You get to see your body position. You get to see how, bar speed, all that sort of thing on a certain lift. So, yeah, it's cool. It's really, really nice to hear that you guys are finding that so powerful as well, and that's how you use it.
Powerful in many ways, for marketing and social media and all of this. But whenever I teach people to be their own harshest critic as well.
Yep.
So a lot of the times, for example, when I'll do a lift, I'll turn around and I'll ask all of my wonderful team members how it looked, and everyone wants to give me a pat on the back.
Yep.
It's just human nature. They just want to be nice. So I don't do that anymore. I film myself, and I'm my own harshest critic. And I know I'm not looking for, good boy, bad boy. I'm looking for your knee went out, your knee didn't go out, your chest dropped, your eyes dropped, your feet were...
What's the 1% you can fix?
1% at a time. And I do it every single time. Each and every warm-up rep, I've got a lot of new philosophies that I guess I've kept a lot of them since I've known you guys. But basically, something I talk about is you've got to earn the right to add weight to the bar. Yep. Something that a lot of people don't know about me is I actually hate lifting heavy weights. So I try and find ways to make it feel light.
Yep.
And everything is technique. So the older I'm getting, the smarter I'm getting, and it comes from experience in being injured, and I don't want that anymore.
Yep.
I hate being broken. It sucks, and you can't get strong that way.
Yep.
And so I did one really vicious injury on the weekend. I tore my callus on my pinky on the deadlift. So that's my big injury that I've done my whole prep leading up to this.
I can zoom in.
Can you zoom in on it?
Yeah,
it's pretty vicious. I don't know if it's suitable for your viewers.
Yeah. Up on that camera there. Yeah. Oh, mate, that's savage.
Yeah.
Did Felicia give you a kiss for that one? Or?
She didn't, because she didn't want to catch whatever I had on her.
So, just quickly, there's a really good lead in here that is one of the topics that I wanted to talk about. And this is something that you guys, like our style of training, other than the fact that we do barbells and body weight, we both keep it fairly simple in that regard. Like you look around, there's no fancy equipment and machinery here. We like to keep it simple. But the one thing we have very in common, at least I think so from an outsider's perspective looking in, is that we do something that actually hijacks a very intrinsic mechanism in the brain, which is using something other than body image as a primary goal for our motivation. We use movement and strength, and so do you. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit, because I think that's something we can really add value to people that are watching. Finding your intrinsic motivator, because you tapped on it there. You are your harshest critic, and it's always at the end of the day you versus you. You know, even though you go and compete on a national level like you just did on the weekend, when you're in the training camp, you're not. I mean, I don't know about you, and I'd love to hear your viewpoint on this. Are you thinking, shit, I've got to beat this guy, or are you thinking I've got to beat myself?
There's a lot of strategies when it comes to competition, whether you're competing against a person or competing against yourself, and I've done all of them. And something that, when it comes to competition, your objective is to win. And a lot of people do say you need to beat the opponent and whatever it is. But I find that my most successful results that I've ever achieved with myself and with my athletes is to definitely have a plan. And something that always goes through my head is a term that I saw Joe DeFranco say. It was one of his t-shirts, and it's a guy with his hand up like that saying, "Fuck plan B." And that's kind of what's going through my head. Just stop changing your mind. Like your mind races in the heat of competition. It's feeling like this. Should I change my strategy? So this is the first time that I ever achieved a 9 from 9 day since my very first competition. My first competition ever was 9 from 9, and that was I forget. It was probably about about 8 years ago. And I did a 630 kilogram total in the 93 kilogram class. And I got 9 from 9 because I had a plan, and I stuck to the plan because I didn't know what else to expect. I'd never done it before, so I thought, here's the numbers that I think I can do. Let's just go and do that and see how it pans out. Yeah. That's the first time I ever got a 9 from 9 day, and this was the second time, I ever got a 9 from 9 day, and I stuck to the process, and it was the best total ever done in Australia. And same with a lot of my athletes. It's like they call me that, if I'm ever not at a competition, and they're messaging me and they're sending me their videos, and they're saying, it felt like this, should I change the plan? Stick to the freaking plan. Stick to the freaking plan. I don't care who's in the room. I know what you can get. This is your best chance of achieving the best total. You try and compete against those people, you're probably going to do something silly, and you're not going to achieve it. So that's just my strategy. I'm not saying it's the winning strategy or it's the best strategy. I just know that I've had the most success with, as you say, competing against yourself. But there's a few other things that you just spoke about, and I think.
Well, where did the motivation come from, Bass? Because, like, you know, for anyone that doesn't know you, like, you're one of the most passionate people I've ever met, and people say to me that I'm an extremely passionate person, and honestly, I don't think I even rank next to you with my passion for things, and that's a compliment.
I take it as a big compliment because I know you very well, Rad. So I do take that as a big compliment.
Well, I believe, people say to me, you're passionate, and I say, no, I'm not passionate, I'm obsessive. Yeah. I'm an obsessed person, and I would say the same about you. Definitely. And I don't use the word obsessed as a negative way at all. People always talk about obsession as being a bad thing, and I think it's a really good thing, because I think if you're not obsessed about something, you're never going to get really good about it. And I'm not the only person that said that. There's great people in a lot of fields that agree with that. Where do you think that your obsession with powerlifting came from? What made you decide to go from what you were doing before at Fitness First that Yanni was talking about to go to this? What was that motivation that got you there?
I've always wanted to be good at things, you know, and I'm very competitive, and I always wanted to be better than everyone, I guess. Within reason. There's certain things that I know that I train a lot of athletes that I'll never come close to. I train the strongest man on the planet, and that's completely
that's Thor from Game of Thrones, right? The mountain from Game of Thrones.
The mountain from Game of Thrones. Yeah, very separate. That's someone you just don't compare yourself to. Yeah. That's impossible. Yeah. You know, they say impossible's nothing. Well, you won't see me do the things that Thor does in this lifetime or the next. Yeah. I guess like a lot of people have competitive nature, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an OCD. I don't know what it is. I think I'm kind of level-headed. I think I'm normal to an extent. But I just like being good at things, and whenever I find something, I guess I understand what it takes to be good at something. And a lot of people, like, for example, a lot of people that aren't good at things get bored easily. Yeah. They don't understand that to be good at things, it requires repetition and a lot of boring
It's boring
movements.
Same shit over and over again.
So the Bruce Lee saying, I don't fear the man who has practiced 10,000 different kicks. I fear the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. Yeah. And that's something that I do right now. If you ever look at my exercise vocabulary, it's very, very, very small. We specify in obviously the powerlifting movements, but there's also a lot of other movements as well, because I'm not just a powerlifter. I like to have a strong, injury-free body that's structurally balanced and moves well. And that does have a huge carryover to powerlifting, but it also has a huge carryover to all strength sports. If you give me a body like a rugby player, as you know, a few of the rugby players that I've coached, I don't know the sport. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I'll ask them just, conversation's sake. Oh, what position do you play? And they'll tell me, and it's like,
I don't know.
Like I care, like I know the difference between whatever it is. But they love that. All of the people that the high level rugby players, they appreciate that, and they know that it doesn't matter whether I know their position or not, because they're not with me to teach them how to play rugby, for example. My MMA fighters, I don't teach them how to fight. They're with me because they know that I know how to get them strong and injury free and moving well and structurally balanced. And if you get a strong injury-free body and put it in any playing field and practice the shit out of your sport with that body, it's a fantastic head start. But I think, this is moving from topic to topic. That's what it was that you did suggest was my motivation. It's not the mirror. And I've changed from that. That is absolutely right. And that's the same with my wife's mantra as well. And I guess it's all the same system. But theirs is a female only. And we take a lot of people from the mirror because it's very subjective. What you see in the mirror can ruin everything. Like, for example, with my lifts, I see a big ugly guy with his eyeballs popping out, telling me that that's too heavy for him. So I'll dump the bar because it's like, that guy's struggling. So I can't look at the mirror when I lift. It doesn't
We
work.
actually, just quickly, a quick side note, I'll jump out. When Bass used to train here at Unity, we installed a blind that he could pull down in front of the mirrors, which is like taking this to a whole new degree, I guess. And we kind of, one of the main reasons why we put mirrors in the gym here at all is because we wanted to make the place look bigger. It was a design install, not so that we could stare at ourselves in the mirror. The place is kind of small. We wanted to make it look bigger, and it was suggested by an interior designer. But this is like, I guess it's something that we try and teach people, because you said it really well. Body image is subjective.
Yes.
And you're never going to look like the person you want to look like.
Never.
You just can't,
because perfect doesn't exist.
Exactly. And at some point along the way, it becomes unmotivating because you try, and unless you're genetically gifted, you're never going to stand. There's an element of genetics that allows someone to stand on stage and look amazing.
Absolutely.
Irrespective of, they fucking train for it to stand at that caliber, but if you the 99% of the people out there aren't going to achieve that. And so what we've found, and it's interesting because you guys have achieved a very high level of fitness, we found that finding your intrinsic motivator, which usually it's easier to relate it back to movement, to strength, to physical performance, and how the body feels, as opposed to how it looks necessarily. On that note, though, what's the documentary on Netflix with the English dude who was the heaviest, the strongest deadlifter in the world for a little while? Eddie Hall. I watched the documentary. Loved that documentary. Yeah. When you watch powerlifters and the world's strongest men, they're usually big dudes. And I don't mean big just in muscular terms. You said it before, they got big bellies and they got a certain physique, and you've never looked like that. You've always been probably the leanest, really successful powerlifter I've ever seen. Yeah. Is that something that you specifically do?
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you look at, it depends who you're comparing to.
Because I'm sure it would be easier to be fat.
It is very easy to be fat. You'd think it's easier to get fat, but actually walking around with a big gut.
Yeah.
If you I've actually, I'm lucky enough that I've got a lot of friends that are over 150 kilograms now.
Yeah.
Up to 200 kilograms is my heaviest friend.
Yep.
None of them are comfortable.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so it's easy to put on a certain amount of fat, but then to get to that level, that's not easy. That's a full-time job.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
And so I don't know if, because you did mention Eddie Hall, he recently put up a post of him just before he deadlifted 500 kilograms without his t-shirt.
Yep. And he actually, I should put this just in case Eddie ever finds me in the street. He's not one of the dudes I was referring to. He's actually quite muscular, yeah.
No,
he's not.
Eddie Hall?
Is he not?
No, he's round.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's a big ball.
Yeah, okay.
He's not muscular. That's the British guy with the
deadlift
record.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I thought I saw abs
he's
on
got
the
muscle.
outside. Yeah.
He's got muscle and he's got a whole heap of fat.
Yep.
And the post that I'm referring to, he put up was him with his t-shirt off.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And he basically said on it, this is me at, he talks in stones, but whatever it was, it equates to about 195 kilograms. This is me at 195 kilograms. I don't wish this upon my worst enemy.
Yeah, right.
Right, and so and I can vouch for it, not from my own experience, but the athletes that I train, like the biggest athlete that I've been the closest with, I've got Thor, who they have the CPAP devices. They have sleep apnea.
Yep.
They can't sleep very well.
Right.
They're too big.
Yep.
And then another guy who's Alex the God, Simon. So we got him to.
So he's an absolute beast.
He's a beast. I met him at about 130 kilograms when he was 18 years old.
Yep.
He was 17 years old. Anyhow, we took him to number one in Australia, strongest guy in Australia on his very second powerlifting competition. He weighed 180 kilograms, and he didn't like anyone.
Wow. Yeah.
He didn't like anyone. He was so angry because he had no sleep.
Yep.
He felt sick.
Yep.
Couldn't move. He was uncomfortable. So that's
really
that's the extremes, though.
Yeah, of course. But the other thing is, I had to talk to my guys. I every once in a while, because I have the job of training the guys who do our foundations program, which is really laying the foundations for them to work with barbells and stuff like that. And one of the big things we cover is nutrition in that, and my theory, because I've gone from 78 kilos to 92 kilos of lean. I was about a 10 or 11% body fat at that stage by DEXA, and I've always felt that, and now I'm back down to 84. I've always felt that it's more work to get big because it fucking costs a lot of money. Yeah. To get lean and to lose weight, yes, it's just discipline and it requires work, but effectively you save a lot of money. At the end of the day, when you peel back the layers, it's just the work. But to get really muscular, and I'm sure you got a bunch of bodybuilders down at your gym as well, and you're friends with them, and powerlifters. And these guys, I've watched, anyone who hasn't seen it, watch the documentary on the world's strongest men, and look at how much they have to fucking put into their bodies to maintain that level of strength and performance. There's a lot of fuel going through that body, and it doesn't come cheap.
It's a lot of fuel. It doesn't come cheap. Like living with Thor, we live with him. I've done it 3 times for 2016, 17 and 18 World's Strongest Man. We lived together for 6 weeks over the year. We brought my family down as well, and my wife was cooking the food. We'd go and do the groceries.
Wow,
He's spending thousands of dollars a week just on food, the highest quality meats. So he's very different. So now, that's number 1 on the planet. And a lot of people think that it's just calories. I've heard people say there's no such thing as a bad calorie. That's at the highest level. And it's like, I disagree. And actually, I've learned a lot about eating high quality food through Thor.
Yeah, wow.
So, this is a bit of a shameless plug. So Thor follows Stan Efferding's vertical diet. It's a bit of a fad at the moment, it seems, because it's very popular, but it's popular because it works. Not only does it work because of the nutrition that you're getting in, but it's also the digestibility of the food that they're eating. It's not easy to consume the amount of calories that these guys need to consume.
Absolutely.
These guys are between 8,000 up to 12,000 calories a day. I don't know if the viewers at home understand what that means, but that means you pretty much have a fork in your hand and in your face all day long.
24/7, yeah.
And, the digestibility of the food, and it needs to be high quality food, because if you're full, you just can't eat. And if you're feeding yourself crap that causes inflammation in your guts and you're bloated, you don't want to eat anymore. So it's not just as easy as just eating dirty calories. They're eating high quality food, and that's something that I've done in the last since knowing Thor, is white rice and minced beef is probably the staple, and chicken stock with spinach and copious amounts of salt. That's probably the staple of my nutrition. I do eat other things as well. I do eat my greens, and I do eat, I eat oats, other types of carbohydrates. I eat a lot of, I drink a lot of cranberry juice and orange juice. These are all things that are not just like, dirty calories or meaningless calories. You need carbohydrates to fuel the workloads that you're going to be performing.
Absolutely.
But you need all of this food to be able to digest. And that's the beauty of eating something like this, is you have a meal, and you're not full. Walking around bloated and full, that's not actually a good thing. And the biggest powerlifters and all these big strong guys that just want to get big and fat and round, they've got it kind of wrong. So, as you said, it was a nice compliment that you said that I was one of the leanest guys of the powerlifters that you've seen. If you look at the guys at the highest level that compete in a weight class, often the best guys are shredded.
Good.
Because you need muscle to move the weight. But it's the weight classes when it's 140 kilogram and
above,
up. That's the super heavy weights. That's when a little bit of extra weight, whether it's fat or muscle, is actually going to help. The way that you bounce, the way that your hamstrings press against your calves at the bottom of a squat and bounce you up, for example. Your big gut to hold you upright and protect your core. That does help. But when you're in a weight class, actually the best guys on the planet are shredded. That's
interesting, and I guess that's a really good thing to plug too, because we do like to promote health, and I guess at an elite level. Powerlifting, at an elite level with any sport, let's be real, health is often sacrificed for performance. And this is something I've argumented many a time. Elite level athletes aren't necessarily healthy. They make huge sacrifices for their performance and for their sport. But I had a really interesting conversation with a friend who's a professional bodybuilder, who was an Olympia bodybuilder, and he maintained around 140 kilo physique all year round, and he was about your height. And he sort of said to me once, which I thought was interesting, to be a professional bodybuilder or an athlete at that level, sometimes the genetics that come into play are just the robustness of your digestive system. Because you get to a point where you've put so much shit through your body that your digestive system is often the first thing that fails at that level. And when your digestive system fails, you're fucked, because you stop digesting the food properly, you stop absorbing nutrients. And he was, this is Ben Pekulski, just in case you're watching, mate, shout out to you, awesome dude. He was really meticulous about the food he put in his body. And he used to say, I think I remember him saying to me once, it cost him about $70,000 a year to maintain his physique,
just from nutrition alone.
Nutrition and supplementation and all that sort of thing, and he used to say, look, I am very full, like I try and put as much organic through as I can. I try and reduce the toxic load. And he was amazing at, but a lot of the other bodybuilders didn't, but I have seen guys come and go. And he used to say, one of the biggest reasons why you see bodybuilders just disappear all of a sudden is either through injury or internal injury. Their bodies just go pack out. They can't do it anymore. They get IBS or whatever else it is, and their body stops processing the amount of fuel it's going through.
So it's like at that level, and it depends on the sport, but the supplementation that you may or may not have been referring to, it does destroy the body a lot.
Yeah.
And the gut health at that level, it's absolutely not good for you. And the thing is that you are saying that at the highest level, it's not necessarily healthy, and you are absolutely correct. The best athletes in the world at whatever sport, it is niche. They are unbalanced. They don't have, a lot of the things like much family time, or they don't really enjoy a lot of the nice things in life because they are obsessed with the sport. And that's, whether you call that healthy or not, that's what people want to do. But actually, I think that people are turning to this whole thing of health because with an unhealthy body, you get sick. When you're sick, you can't perform. So if you disregard health completely, you're doing yourself a disservice, absolutely.
Look, man, I reckon what you've just said there is a really important thing to touch on and for the audience to understand. When you're looking at Instagram or when you're looking at YouTube or when you're watching professional athletes and trying to compare yourself to them, you just cannot understand the amount of work that goes into it. Like, the amount of work that goes into what Yanni, Richard and I do is far more than what the average person is in, and that is not even close to what someone like you does, because I'm not trying to compete in anything. I'm just trying to be the best that I can be for myself, and even still I'm doing things that the average person isn't willing to do. But what you just spoke about there, about the load that it puts on your body to perform at this level, I think a lot of people out there are really unrealistic with their goals when they look at what they decide, okay, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to start doing this, so I'll start working out like this guy, but they don't understand everything that goes into it. They don't understand the, and you even touched on it before, how you said this Fitspo thing is getting a negative connotation, which is really sad, because I don't know that it should. Like, if you want to devote your life to something like this and be obsessed with it, then do it. I mean, that's what we do and we love it. But if you're not willing to devote your life to it, don't compare yourself to the people that are at the top. Don't ever think that you're ever going to be there, and let your actions meet your expectations. Because it's not like you should say, well, I'm never going to be that person, so I may as well not do anything for my health and fitness and movement. Because if all you could dedicate was an hour a day and you could just try and eat better food than you're eating now, you're still going to be infinitely times better than if you don't do that, right?
For sure.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because we do get that a lot, and you get people saying, oh, well, you can't train like that, so that's so stupid. But it's not the way you should be going through life.
It is, and it does take a lot of experience to understand what it actually does take to achieve these levels of success. And it is funny. I guess you guys must see it so many times. You've got access to a lot of people that are just starting out in whatever their pursuit to health or strength or fitness or whatever it is, and the goals that they're setting themselves. I mean, you guys and I know what's achievable, and how many people come in with unrealistic goals that it's like,
it's not just that.
It's not. Let's just get started with a few little things first.
What I used to find really mind-boggling was when I would see guys coming in that did want to try to lift as much weight as possible, but all they could dedicate to it was coming into the gym an hour a day, and they got so many injuries. And you think, man, you might be looking at people like Bass on Facebook and looking at the lifts that he does, but you don't realize the work that goes into it in the background, and you've got to respect the time that it takes to be able to get to this level, and the amount of work and the amount of sacrifice and the nutrition and the recovery and the massages that you get and
the support around
it. Yeah, exactly.
Just while we're on that, give the massage therapist a quick plug, because he's just jumped on, and
that's Dr. Phil.
Dr. Phil.
Phil White. I've been seeing that guy actually since you guys recommended him to me, and that was only by accident. My original massage therapist was away.
Yeah, I remember.
It was quite lucky that they were away, because it was a girl, and I think my wife probably preferred that I didn't get massaged by a girl. And then anyway, so it ended up being Dr. Phil,
Yeah.
who's in North Sydney, and he's been keeping my body intact since you guys introduced me to him, probably 4 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe more. It could have been 5.
No, it would have been probably 5, I reckon. It would have been right near when we started Unity Gym.
And I've been especially up to comp prep time, and that's a huge part of my success in my movement is that I can actually move.
Yeah.
And without the weekly massage, it's probably wouldn't have happened as well.
No
so
way.
Yeah, shout out to Dr. Philsy, you're the man.
Yeah,
You're the man.
it's the same. I'd say it's the same with me, Bass. Even when I'm not even competing, just to be able to do what I do, I see Phil when I can, and I also see Tom and Angus, the chiropractors down there. For me, my biggest problem is my lower back. I've got issues with my lower back, and
A ridiculous amount of sand that just accumulates in his vagina.
oh yeah.
Brotherly love.
Yeah, brotherly love, of course. You wouldn't think that I was the one that was in the army, but anyway. Yeah, man, like you just can't do it, can you? When you're training the amount that we train, and you're not like, if you didn't have someone that was really good that was working on your body every week, like Phil or any of the guys down at Cartwright Physical Therapy, you just I don't know how I'd do it.
Yeah, so it's a big part of it. It's not just the training, and that's what people don't get. It's the little things as well to maintain your health, and that's part of health.
Yep.
Is to keep your body injury free and moving correctly. Nutrition, rest. The dumb things like, are you getting 8 hours of sleep?
But when you get to the level that you've got, like Yanni talked about this road that you've been on, and I mean, we've all been on these journeys, like you said. Yanni and I have been on a journey. We've all been doing this for 20 years or whatever, if you count all the training that we've done. The older you get and the more you get into it, the more you realise that the shit that you paid off when you started is actually some of the most important stuff.
Yeah.
Like taking care of your body, getting enough sleep, putting the right nutrition in so that you can go and compete, and the worst injury that you get is a callus being torn. Because if you go back in time, that wasn't what was happening. You're getting really bad injuries that are coming up all the time.
Yeah, I thought injury was part of it.
Yeah.
I thought the whole no pain, no gain thing is just my life that I chose to live because I was tough and hardcore. But there's nothing tough or hardcore about the way I make my decisions anymore.
Yeah.
And same with my athletes as well. If anything's slightly going to hurt anybody, we eliminate it immediately. And the exercises that I used to think is what hurt me are the ones that I use to fix people.
Yeah.
So for example, someone comes to me with a back injury, the first thing I'm going to do is teach them how to bend over and pick things up and strengthen their movement. And the best exercise for that is a deadlift. And that's one of the exercises that's being poo-pooed by a lot of therapists that don't actually understand the movement, because a lot of injuries come from incorrectly performed deadlifts or incorrectly performed any movement in the gym.
Yeah, man.
Actually. And
it's funny that you say that, Bass, because one of the we're still talking about Phil here and our practitioners that work on our bodies. One of the reasons why I love Phil and Tom and the guys down at Cartwright Physical Therapy are that they do exercise themselves. And we have members that go and see physios. And they come back and they tell me, I can't train for 3 weeks. Why not? Oh, well, the physio told me I've got to lay on the ground and practice, this and that. And I just slap my hand on my head and
lay
think,
on the ground and be weak and sedentary, which is what injures most people in the first place.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it, to understand the way that the body moves if you're going to be prescribing exercise for rehab and for things like that.
Well, the best physiotherapists out there are ones that prescribe exercise and movement and corrective strengthening movements to help people get better.
Yeah, for sure. Yanni, you had a question you were going to. Yanni's typing on Facebook. He's responding to all the comments here. Man, look, that's mate. It's been an awesome chat. We're getting some great feedback on Facebook here. There's some of our old members. Shout out to Tom Slezak there for your comment, mate. Good to see you on there. He's one of our old members.
I know Tom.
Tom. Yeah.
How are you, Tom?
Yeah. But mate, it's been unreal. It's for me, Yanni's obviously been friends with you for longer than I have because Yanni was working at Walker Street and at Fitness First with you when I was up at St Leonard's. But when we became friends 5 years ago, when I got out of the army, 6 years ago now, when I got out of the army and we were all still back at Fitness First, like watching how far you've come and being part of that journey. You know, having you here as a trainer for a year or however long you were here, and then watching you go on Open Base Gym. It's just been unreal. You know, it's been so cool the way that both of our businesses have grown, and to see you win this competition on the weekend, it's just been unreal. That's why I was so excited to get you in here, because even though we've been a kilometre away, we've been on the other sides of North Sydney, I've been watching the journey and I feel like I've been a part of it. And it's so cool, man, to see where you've come and what you've achieved in the years. And yeah, it's just
thank you. And you guys have definitely been a big part of my journey. You know, in so many ways. Obviously, you guys had me up here and I was working here. You guys motivated me a lot with the styles of gym and taught me a lot about how to run a gym as well, you know, through working so closely with you guys. You know, if you look around at this gym, it's very similar to the style of gym that I have as well. It's pretty much the same thing. And I learned a lot about running the business side of things through you guys as well. And although we do run separate types of businesses, you know, you guys have been a huge part of my journey and my success today. So thank you guys so much for that. And a funny thing as well is, even back at Fitness First, a lot of people, you know, will poo-poo commercial gyms. And I think it's a bit funny. And I'll probably, if I had a choice, I'd prefer not to train in a commercial gym over the styles of gym that I have today. But, you know, that's my blueprint as well. You know, 10 years at Fitness First before I started here. And a lot of people, you know, upcoming, let's just say, you know, switch to the audience of the personal trainers out there, if there are any watching.
Yep.
You know, it is a great place to start. And it's what, started you guys in this direction.
This is absolutely, I mean, people say this all the time. I have exactly the same opinion. I did 10 years at Fitness First and I wouldn't be where I am today without it, you know. It was not easy, you know, because you stand out, there's 35 other trainers there and you've got to hustle. But for fuck's sake, man, like, it's a platform to launch you. There's one other thing I'd like to tip on that you said you brushed over before, and it falls into that whole Gary Vaynerchuk eat shit before you talk the shit, you know. You trained a lot of your professional athletes for free. You didn't take money off them at first to expand into that market, you know. And at that level, you weren't a trainer that was struggling to bring clients on. You know,
I had a full book of clients.
Full book of
They're
clients.
all paying me, it's a funny thing, but that's probably why I was able to do that. You know, and a lot of people that were giving me the advice of not, you know, you got to make money for every, you know, for your time, and you're more valuable than this, and they're going to respect you if you charge them. For me, it wasn't about the money. For me, it was initially about, I was into martial arts before I became a powerlifter. And I'll just make this very clear, I wasn't a very good martial artist, which is why I turned to powerlifting. But that was my interest and I loved it. And something that I saw in Australia was there wasn't a huge amount of Australian successful high-level powerlifters. When martial artists.
Yep.
What I mean by high level, I mean ones that were actually getting paid.
Yeah.
And that was a big disadvantage. So if you're not getting paid, how can you pay for, you know, personal trainers or to live the lifestyle that we're talking about, where you get to train and you get the luxury to be able to train at your leisure multiple times per day and recover and be fed and have these people surrounding you, helping you, and it just didn't exist. So it was kind of me trying to give back, because I love martial artists and I was friends with these guys and I wanted to give back. And I thought, what if I could save these guys money and give them the great strength work? That's the most that I could contribute to these guys was a free strength coach. And that was kind of me trying to do right by Australian martial arts, you know. So that's actually where it came from. It wasn't just because I wanted to build my reputation. That's just what came as a result of it. I didn't need to build my reputation as the man who trained professional athletes. You know, I just wanted to help these guys because there was a need for it. And then it just changed. And
You've just nailed the whole thing on the head again, perfectly, with absolute symmetry, which is to give without expectations of receiving. You know, and I think this is something that trainers can learn from, because fuck, it's accelerated us. And you know, we've only just got to the stage pretty much this year really where we now allocate 4 hours a day to our training, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon. We have very select times where we allow ourselves to train clients. We don't take clients on outside of those times. So gone are the days where people can call you up and say, oh, I need to move my session to 10 a.m. That's our training time. And we're like, nope, nothing gets in the way, you know. And but it took fucking 12, 15 years to get to that level, you know. And you do have to eat some shit along the way. I mean, I remember the days you used to do the same thing. You and Bass have probably got you and Cameron have the same work ethic. You've done the 16-hour days. You've done the fucking dawn till dusk grind. One thing I'd like to tip on, and I don't know whether you'll allow me to go here, which is the family life that you tipped on before, the sacrifices you've had to make in that regard. Because a lot of people that probably watch you online don't realise that you're actually a family man. You've got a daughter, you've got a wife, like they see you training constantly, How's that gone? Talk about that.
I'll be completely honest with you, and I hate the whole stereotype, #blessed. But to be completely honest with you, I haven't really had to make sacrifices. My wife and daughter travel with me overseas everywhere I go. The longest we've been without is probably 1 week.
Yep.
And I've got an 8-year-old daughter, and I guess it's because my wife she's just amazing like that. She values our family life so much that she won't let that change.
Yep.
So she makes a point every time it's any of the events that my daughter has, any of her athletics carnivals, if she receives an award at school, we're at the school every single time. And it's not just the mum that does it, it's the mum and dad. So we're both there together, embarrassing my little daughter. I don't know if she's embarrassed yet, but she damn well will be because we're going to be at every event for her, because we prioritize our family, and I'm very lucky that it hasn't really got in the way, because they create the family life around what I do. My daughter comes to the gym and she loves it. And
I've seen those videos recently, man. It's so inspiring. I've got a 3-year-old and a 7-month-old who's buzzing around here somewhere, and I'm like trying to get him in here as soon as possible. And the kids hang out here so they're comfortable. Think about the potential of that. Imagine you were introduced to a gym at 3 years old. Holy shit.
So there's so much that goes behind that, and basically it's about, I've never wanted to stuff anything down my daughter's throat. I don't want her to be forced to do anything that she doesn't want to do, because I don't believe that she'll succeed that way. And that's what the beauty of this was. She asked me if she could start deadlifting. One of the funniest moments was I just recently, not too long ago, I did a log pressing competition. And it was another little victory. I got an Australian log pressing record in a sport that I don't really
practice,
which was testament to my training method, was just to be strong on every angle, and it carries over to other sports. And so that's a big part of why I did it. But I was watching my video, as I do. I watch my videos over and over and over again. Call it vanity or call it, self-critique or whatever it is. But my daughter walked in and she watched me watching this video, and she started commentating as if it was from my voice. And she's like, oh, look at me, I'm Australian strength coach and I'm doing all the reps. Who the hell are you?
Oh, that's awesome.
But she knows the lingo with a lot of exercises. She talks about, she'll teach you how to deadlift. It's just freaking amazing. Grab the bar, knees out on the inside of your arms, pull your shoulder blades down, look up, lean back and push the world away. Like she's telling Felicia how to do these things, and it's just like
awesome.
But I didn't teach her that. Well, I did teach her these things, but not through sitting her down and forcing her to do anything.
This is the thing. Kids don't. The one thing I've learned with the short 3 years that I've been a dad is that kids don't do what you say, they do what you do.
Exactly.
The apple never falls far from the tree, So when they're seeing you, and this is something that I keep telling, we got so many parents in here, keep grinding, irrespective of whether it's for your goal, because the influence you're having on your family is profound and it lasts forever. You know, it's really, really good. There's one last thing I'd really like to quickly dabble on, because you just said it, and it's something that I try and teach our guys. So our whole program is basically, if you peel it right back, it's barbells and body weight. We do calisthenics and we do strength training, and and our foundations program is designed to build strength. The guys that are in the foundations program, they don't do calisthenics yet, you know. And I've got like this clear memory of when we first put up our first ever Swedish ladder, and we were playing around on it without any practice at all. You almost did a perfect flag, you know, which is something that Cali guys train for years and years and years to do. So our ethos is that you build foundational strength first, and it carries over. And this is the same way that a strength coach trains an athlete. The first thing you do when you get an athlete is make them fucking strong, because they're going to perform well in every sport, basically, you know. So this is something I'd like to talk about very quickly. Building strength and your experiences with that. As a perfect example, being able to do a calisthenics movement. What are your thoughts on building raw strength and the effect that has on every facet of life, including psychologically, I guess?
Yeah. So I can touch on everything, like including psychologically. I've coached not just athletes, but some of the highest, most successful company directors as well. And I know from feedback from these guys when they talk about how confident they are going into a meeting.
Yep.
As we all know, that I used to do a bit of martial arts as well, so I used to teach martial arts, a bit of boxing, a bit of strength work, and these guys, knowing that they could probably beat the other guy up in a fight, because they were stronger and had better movement and knew how to protect themselves, it played a huge role in their confidence when it came to signing business deals, multi-million dollar business deals. And that's just like, how cool is that? Something I would never have thought of.
Yep.
But I analyze a lot of these things, like, we're all parents now, and my sport is a high priority of mine, especially for my daughter. I want her to want to be good at sports, and we encourage with all the running carnivals, and she's come first every single year. I'm going to say a funny story. She's in year 3, so kindergarten she came second. Sorry, not second. I don't know where she came. She didn't even come top 3. And a huge part of that was I was on the sideline, and imagine a kindergarten. She was 5 years old. She's running, and I'm on the side going, "Go, go!" She turns and she stops and looks at me, and I'm like, Anyway, so she came. Wasn't top 3, and she almost started crying at the end. And someone came and gave her a participation award. And she said, "What's this? Did I win?" She goes, "No, that's better than winning." She's like, and she came and told first place that this was better than, I did better than you. And I'm like, fair enough. Fair enough, as long as she's happy. Anyway, so I was looking at the people that were more athletic, like it's just that they're children. They're not athletes, they're just children. I was looking at the differences between them. And my daughter was a little bit young for her year, and she was quite petite. And the people that were fast were bigger. They probably had better appetites, and they actually, as dumb as it sounds, they had more muscle mass. The children had more muscle mass, were able to move faster.
Absolutely.
And it just came from, my daughter ate like a bird. Like, she's got shit appetite. She doesn't like much food. And I have to force her, like every morning I make her a bowl of porridge, and I put a little teaspoon of whey protein in there as well, just to make sure that she's got at least a really good carbohydrate protein meal to start her day. And I think that goes a long way. And she sees us eating healthy, and we force her to eat the healthy shit before she eats her crap stuff. It's a funny thing being a parent and being in control of what your children eat. But the strength differences, from an athletic level, like just running 100 meters, that's something that most people know how to do. They just know how to run. So you don't really need a huge amount of skill at that level, but it's the strongest kids that were winning.
Absolutely.
And the strength came to, like, the only attribute that you could see was the size. And these are the kids that were dominating. But that's from both levels. That's from success in the corporate world.
Right down to children. It's interesting that you say that. I don't know if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers book. They've looked at this, and they've looked at what in specific children. And there's a couple of things that come into play when they're looking at an elite level performer compared to everyone else. And we used to always say, it's all genetics. It actually isn't. It's actually environmental and the way they start out. And the first thing that seems to be correlated to high performance in American sports, gymnastics, things like that, is the age of them in the school. Because when kids up until about 10 years old, a year makes such a big difference, So if you're born in January and you're competing against kids that were born in December, there's an obvious difference in physical capability, And so they looked at all the professional NFL hockey players, and the majority of the high-level guys, except Wayne Gretzky, actually, were all born in the first quarter of the year. January, February, March, and some of them in April, And they just dominated physically. And then that has a ripple effect. It seems to...
They're used to winning.
Well, they're used to winning. It conditions their mind, and they also get selected for all the top teams as a young, so they get nurtured better, they get access to better coaching, they get access to better facilities, and that ends up just having a roll-on effect throughout their entire life, So it's
I completely agree with that.
So, guys, we're going to, because we are wrapping this up, but we've had a couple of questions come through for Bass that we're just going to fire over. So, Mitchell Jackson has asked, when it's time to progress load, in the Aussie strength coach's opinion, should you be using more of an RPE scale or worked percentages in regards to 1RM or both?
Neither and both. Okay, so I don't use RPEs and I very rarely use percentages. So let's just use, for example, Mitchell, did you say?
Yeah, Mitchell. Yep.
Mitchell, if you came to see me, the first thing I would do, after clearing that you didn't have any injuries or anything like that, is I'd take you over to, whatever exercise you wanted to perform. Let's just call it the squat. And I would see how you perform with no weight at all. Yep. From that point, if you looked like you could handle an empty barbell, I would then put an empty barbell on you. If you couldn't move an empty barbell well, I wouldn't let you progress beyond that. I don't care what your percentage is. I don't know what your max is. I don't know what your history is, and I don't care. If you came to me and said you've squatted 400 kilograms and you can't move an empty barbell, I'm not going to let you progress until you go past that, for example. So for myself, I know what I can lift, but I can't lift that every single session. I can't lift even close to that every single session. I could lift that maybe once or 2 times per year after I spend weeks and weeks and weeks of peaking. So whatever you think that your max is not your max. That's your max once or 2 times per year, not every day of the week. So if you work on a percentage based on your max, it's incorrect. RPE, I quite like that because basically what it's telling you to do is be conservative. So
for those that don't know, Bas, can you tell them what RPE is?
RPE
please?
means rate of perceived exertion. And basically it's telling people a number out of 10, 10 being maxing out. You have zero capability of doing anything beyond that. Whenever you see anyone writing a program with RPEs, you'll never see the number 10 written on your program, which is a very intelligent way of telling people, don't max out.
Yeah,
you don't need to max out. That's not what makes you strong. And that's how I used to train, and that's how I used to walk around with loads of injuries. Something that I said at the start of the session was I don't like lifting heavy weights. I hate lifting heavy weights. If you watch me train, probably 99% of my training looks easy. I don't grind away on barbells anymore. That's not how you get strong. So RPE is a very effective way of telling people to be conservative with your load selection. Just because you can do, a weight doesn't mean you have to. Just because you can do 10 reps doesn't mean you should do 10 reps. Do 9 or 8 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
This is something I was going to ask. In alignment with that, you would obviously then use bar speed as a good indication of whether the weight's correct for you.
Again, this is subjective, but yes, I do, and I've got a very good eye for bar speed because I've been doing it for so long. Yep. But to then go and recommend people to go and look at bar speed, the best way of doing that is to use a Tendo unit or some type of device that literally measures the bar speed, and it's a fantastic device for these reasons, is to test your actual what percentage of your max you're working at, and if you're training effectively. But that's an expensive device, and not everyone has access to these. But yes, personally, I'm experienced in measuring bar speed just by eyeballing it, and I can tell if it's moving slow. And every lift is different. Some people lift slow compared to others. Some people lift really fast, and if it slows down very slightly, they'll miss the lift completely. So it's understanding the athlete. Every athlete's completely different. For me, bar speed is pretty much my tool over percentages and RPEs, is making sure that the bar's moving the way it should move at whatever weights that they're lifting. And if it is, then they're allowed to progress.
Yep. Awesome. So, Mitch,
hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, hopefully that gets it for you, Mitch. It was a great answer, Bas, so thanks, mate. So Dave has just jumped in and thanked you, Bas, for the strength system for the female athlete. He said that was a really great read.
Awesome.
And thanks for tuning in, Dave. I haven't seen you for a while, mate, so thank you very much. And our next question for Alex. Alex Allen, how are you, bro? Long time no see. I'm sure you remember Alex.
I do know Alex. How are you, man?
So for Bas, Alex has asked, your approach to understanding training methods, lifting techniques, and their accessories seems quite unique. For example, scapular control on tricep dips. How do you develop that knowledge? How did you develop that knowledge? Sorry.
I guess it was understanding the first piece of learning that I, based on this style of human movement, came from Mark Buckley years and years ago when I did a Czech exercise coach course, and we learned all about force couple relationships with the body. So one part of the body moves, something down the chain moves. So for example, because you mentioned scapular control, most of my exercises that I talk about involve retraction and depression of the scapula, and I say this is probably the safest, strongest foundation for the shoulder, and not just the shoulder position, but the chest and the torso to be in for pretty much every single exercise that exists. But something that I say is there's such thing as human movement, and then human movement around barbells. So for example, in a bench press, the cue that I use is to pull the shoulder blades back and down towards the back pockets, which is retraction and depression of the scapula. The reason why this is the safest method is because we have a heavy object in our hands, and we have a board in our back that's jamming our scapula in place. Now, this isn't human movement. This is human movement with weights. Adapting to its environment. So when you have the heavy weight in your hands and a board jamming your scapula in place, once you go into protraction, which is actually the natural movement. So when you throw a punch, throw a ball, or push an object, the force-couple relationship with this movement in the arm is protraction and elevation of the scapula. So human movement, correct human movement, is actually incorrect when it comes to the technique performed on a bench press. Because if you protract and elevate the scapula, and then you've got that board behind you that's wedging your scapula in that
in an awkward position.
Incorrect position, and then you come to lower that weight, you're never going to be able to retract the scapula, which is what your body actually wants to do. So I teach most of my movements as basically retraction and depression of the scapula is the strongest position. Now, unfortunately, this is creating an imbalance. The imbalance is correct human movement. It does want to protract. The scapula does protract and elevate. And if all we're doing is not strengthening that area, we're developing a weak point. So it's not my dip exercise. It's a variation of a dip that I perform. And that is to something that I talk about. So like with the push-up, I try and teach people, if I was ever to perform push-ups, I'd do a scapular protraction at the end to strengthen the muscles that I'm neglecting with majority of my other techniques that I do in the weights room when I'm lifting really, really, really heavy weights with my scaps back and down in my back pockets.
Also, I noticed that you suggest using more movement through the scapula in all of your remedial and auxiliary. So like throwing a couple out there, your rows, your lat pulls and chins, things like that. I've noticed lately, and this is, I don't know whether you've had any influence over this, because you certainly had influence over the way I bench press and the way that we teach bench press here, you know, and people say, oh, you know, you teach a powerlifting bench press, why is that, because when we did our PT courses and our diplomas and things like that many years ago, they always taught you with a flat back, and they didn't put any emphasis on the positioning of the shoulders. You know, it was always just sort of hold the shoulders. Maybe you got taught to lock them back when you did a seated row or something like that, you know. But it certainly wasn't to arch the back, and it certainly wasn't to push the shoulder blades downward to depress them, you know. But lately, and I don't know if it's Mark Buckley's influence as well, because he certainly teaches this now in his FMA courses and stuff like that, which you've had something to do with. They're teaching it across the board. I noticed that personal trainers, it's a very good thing. Yeah, very good thing. And I think, I don't know whether that's just been, because I've only noticed it the last couple of years, you know?
So definitely, I used to work with Mark Buckley very closely, very intelligent guy, and I used to run their powerlifting component of the FMA course. It used to be powerlifting was their level, I believe level 2, and then he's changed his education system around. But yeah, he and I have done a lot of work together with that bench press technique as well. So it makes, there's no surprise that the FMA model is the same bench press technique that I'm teaching. Just so we're all clear on this, no one invented this. Okay, I didn't invent a bench press, I didn't invent a squat. I just used the best techniques that I believe. It's actually the same one that the biggest bench presser on the planet uses. His name is Kirill Sarchev, and he's got a 335 kilogram bench press. He uses the same technique that I teach. And it's basically, it's like Taekwondo versus Kung Fu versus Karate versus Muay Thai boxing. They all kind of do the same type of rotation and hip movement of a leg when they kick somebody, because we all have 2 arms, 2 legs and a body, and human movement is human movement. And the body kind of figures out the best, most efficient ways of doing things. Okay, so just to make it clear, no one invented any of these exercises, but people have a great understanding of human movement will catch on that when you perform a bench press, the arch, it should kind of occur to people by now that the strongest bench pressers in the world may understand a thing or two.
Have it right,
about moving things and not being injured. Because being injured, you can't lift heavy objects. So if you know the best bench pressers in the world would understand a thing about shoulder safety when performing a movement like that. Sorry, I just completely sidetracked.
No, that's fine. Well, I think we've pretty much answered the question.
So that's what it was actually. So what are they teaching today in the education system? I teach a lot of physiotherapists. The highest level academic that I've ever taught is a neuroscientist, and I take a lot of pride on. I teach a lot of doctors. I teach a lot of people that should have a better understanding of human movement than just the buffhead powerlifter. Because that's what's not taught in formal education, because people don't have the experience under bars for many, many years at the highest level. And they're teaching to bench press with a flat back. There's so much more to it than just not cheating, because that's how it's perceived, that all you're doing with an arch is just hurting your back and reducing the range of motion. It's far from that.
Yeah, you know, I love that you've just said that as well, Bas, because I think we get that sometimes the same way that you do. I mean, people that are in, when I say we, I mean people that are in the fitness industry that have been doing this for a very long time. You'll post a video and you get all the keyboard experts that come out and try and tell you the literature, you know, says that you should be doing it differently than this and why you're doing it that way. You're like, well, that's really good, man. I'm glad that you read that in a book, but
who wrote it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And who wrote it versus who, you know, who's produced results in the real world? Because producing results in the real world, in my opinion, and I'm pretty sure in your opinion, holds a lot more weight to it than having a textbook knowledge about that. And I think a lot of people out there need to understand that before you want to get up and go head to head with someone on what the best technique is or the best way to do things, maybe have a look at how much time you've spent doing this stuff versus the person that's been doing it for 15 or 20 or 30 years and is producing some of the best results in the world.
Absolutely.
I always find that
even the literature that they're saying that they've read is not really any literature. Any good literature against what we're talking about here.
And it's not even just the literature. It's just it's really you know, I love something that you always said to me. You know, when we talk about what you can do or what you've done or what you've this, and I say, look, man, I just let the numbers speak for themselves. Exactly. You know, I don't boast about what I can do. I just let my numbers speak, and I think that's a really good attitude, because it's you know, at the end of the day, who really gives a shit what you can argue in an argument? Like, show us what you can do, and show us what results you've produced or what you've been able to produce in other people as well.
That's the big one. Show us the results you've been able to produce in other people, because people, you know, people's anatomy and their circumstances are different. We've tipped on that today, and you have to be, as a good coach, you have to be able to work around all of those nuances and those things. You know,
it's not just what you can produce in your own body; it's what you can get other people to do.
I think that's where people run a little bit, they go a little bit stray. They produce a result in themselves and think that is the fucking way. They are the N equals 1. They're an anomaly. They're not the mean, you know, average. And you've got to work off a little bit more than just yourself.
I've seen a lot of that before. I've got the strongest guys on the planet that I am rubbing shoulders with, and it's a very fortunate position. And I know some of these guys can do things that other bodies can't do, and if you watch them try and teach you how to do it, it's kind of a little bit comical, because it's like, I can do it, so you can do it. It's like, that's not how it goes, you know. You're a freak and I'm not a freak. But the ability to teach and the ability to be an athlete are two different skills. But sorry, I'm just going to tip a little bit back to one of your first points about subjective versus objective. Let the numbers do the talking, and this is one of the reasons behind our system. And it's not just my system, which appeals to big buff heads, but also, you know, my other business, or my wife's business, which is a female only, a very pretty version of what I own. They've got the same methodology, which is let the numbers do the talking. And yes, they do have mirrors, just like every gym has mirrors, and people do like to look at their mirrors, but most of the great work is done in the absence of a mirror, where you don't have the opportunity to be subjective, and the iron doesn't lie. We let the numbers do the talking, and it comes to the progress and understanding load selection. So when, you know, answering Mitch's question about RPEs and percentages and whatever, let's just forget being technical now and just sum that up down to: be conservative with your load selection, give yourself room to grow, and let the numbers do the talking. So if you come in every week and you're grinding away and you choose weights that are too heavy, or you're maxing out every time, where do you progress to next week? Probably not very far, if you progress at all. Now, is that enjoyable training? Hell no, that sucks. So it's a huge part about training morale as well, and enjoying what you do is actually progressing, which is why we love strength training so much. You can't see the fat loss every day. You can't see the abs pop out daily as a remarkable change right before your very eyes. So whatever you can see is subjective, but what you can see is a kilogram of weight go on the bar every week, or whatever the increment that you have.
Oh, that's exactly right, and that's something where I think both of our training methods, so what we teach here, the foundation movement system and your strength system, have so much in common, is that we're tapping into that intrinsic motivation to want to be better. So we're teaching people how to do, strength is a part of what we do, but we also have a big part of mobility and gymnastics and calisthenics skill. And when if all you're focusing on is what you look like in the mirror or what the scales are saying, your motivation can drop so badly from just one weekend where you eat a little bit too much carbs and you just retain a little bit more water in your fat cells, and everything just starts to look and feel shit.
Not just that, you're on an evolutionary decline irrespective of what you do about it, because effectively we're all dying slowly, aren't we?
Correct.
The body's not getting younger.
Guaranteed.
Yeah.
But what you said about the motivation of getting that 1 kilo extra on the bar, which you can relate to so many other movement skills, getting that little bit deeper in your squat, or getting that little bit closer to to touching your toes if you're not flexible. It becomes a really rewarding journey. And then when you add those little wins up over the years of training, when you go from not being able to do anything to being very good at something, oh man, for me, that's just so much more rewarding than the way you look in the mirror.
And the skill is forever as well. Yeah. So something that I find with ex-martial artists, or even whatever sport that they play, they can always come back to the skill, and it's something that they know.
It's still there, yeah.
Whereas you slap 10 kilos on,
Yeah, you're back to where you started. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got time for one more question. We'll go for Jagan Blair Summons here. Hey guys, in terms of strength for powerlifting, is there a body fat percentage that is too low to perform optimally in a meet?
I think the body fat percentage is also subjective. For example, I'll go and get a DEXA scan at one person's device, and then I'll go the very same day to someone else's, and they use a different coefficient, a different algorithm, and they'll give me two different percentages. So what your actual percentage is not really true. So to spit out a number is incorrect. So for example, you hear a lot of people say bodybuilders step up on stage at 2%. 2% is dead.
Yeah.
So that doesn't exist, right? Yep. So these percentages that you're talking about, it's a little bit of it's not entirely accurate. Just to get that out there.
Yep.
But let's just say to have your abs showing is not bad. To have your, whatever that percentage is, people say that's roughly, 10% to have all 6 of your abs. I've heard people say, you got the 4 abs, that's probably about 12% and up.
Yep.
These are all...
this is the thing. And the other thing is, the more muscle mass you've got, the more body fat you can carry and still be DEXA'd at below sub 10, like sub 10%,
Exactly.
I've seen some guys that I've looked at and gone, I wouldn't guess that they're 10%, but by DEXA they're 9% because they're fucking human gorillas. They got so much muscle mass,
But at the end of the day, muscle mass is what moves the weight.
Yep.
And if you look at the lowest, the body weight classes in any strength sport, whether it's weightlifting or powerlifting, the best guys on the planet definitely have all of those abs visible. You get your anomalies, you get your freaks that can't. They are allowed to carry body fat because you're not judged based on your appearance. You're judged on your performance.
Yep.
But actually, if you look at the best of the best guys, usually they're pretty damn lean.
Yep.
But there is a lot of merit to having some body fat for your health, your hormonal health, your brain function, your joint health. So if you're completely like bodybuilder level lean, your risk of injury is a lot higher.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be, you're not judged on your appearance, you're judged on your performance, but muscle is what's going to be moving that weight. And if you think that the fat guy image is what the best performance is, not entirely accurate.
Yep.
Not entirely accurate.
Awesome, man. Look, we could talk all day, and quite frankly, there's so much more I'd like to talk about. There was a whole other topic about round back and straight back lifting that I was going to try and dig in, but we'll do that if you're keen.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. I watched you guys, speak about that with Tom, and I love that episode. I love Tom.
Yep.
He's a funny guy. and he obviously knows his stuff. And I loved hearing a little bit about what they do with their chiropractic as well, and him explain that. But with that round back, just a little bit of a fact that I'll throw out there. There's never been a world record deadlift set with neutral spine. So that's a bit of food for thought for everybody. And they didn't necessarily get injured as a result of that either. So it's not a bad thing, but at the same time, I just want to clarify something. I don't teach people how to round back either.
Really?
So you can't teach someone how to do it.
It has to find the individual.
Absolutely. When you're teaching a novice, so novices out there, don't look at someone who's round backing and thinking they're getting away with it, therefore I should. You got to earn your stripes.
This is exactly what Stuart McGill says, and my God, I want to talk to you about this because
let's save it for another.
Let's save it for another episode. I work very closely with a very, very intelligent. He used to be a physiotherapist. He's a biomechanist. He's a 140 kilogram powerlifter. His name's Dr. Andrew Locke, and we run seminars together. And he teaches a lot on the topic about evolution and the way that the spine is made up. Not just ligaments and discs, but also the bones in the vertebra and the veins that run through the bones, and the length tension of the muscles and what the strongest point is. But as a huge topic to be covered on round back deadlifting, is it dangerous? In the wrong hands it is. Is Stuart McGill incorrect? Absolutely not. If you're going to teach away, so up and coming deadlifters out there, learn how to deadlift with a neutral spine, learn how to lift your spine in neutral. But is round back deadlifting not in the right hands? It's very safe and strong.
Absolutely. All right, look, we'll save that for another one.
Fantastic.
Last thing I want to finish up is that I've noticed recently, and I don't know if I'm correct here, you've launched your online program.
I have.
And it looks fucking amazing. I've jumped online. I actually just had it up here before, and I had the website up. So quick little plug when we go onto the widescreen, you can look at this. But let's talk about this very quickly. Give yourself a shameful plug because this is
I will.
A lot of hard work.
Yeah, lots of hard work, and it's probably the most affordable style of coaching of its kind on the planet, I'd say. The results speak for themselves. I've coached the best, strongest athletes on the planet, and this is current. And my methodology involves the highest priority of lifting technique, remains as the highest priority, and I've provided exercise video tutorials for each and every lift that I provide in the program. So people always ask, is XYZ program a good program? And my answer is, if you're performing it incorrectly, the program sucks. You have to understand what the correct lifting technique is. If you understand that, the next second highest priority that I have is load selection. And that's something that I also provide is a load calculator based on my experience with beginners all the way through to the strongest on the planet. And I've got a very intelligent guy that I work with who's created the algorithms for my load calculations, and we've calculated it based on all levels, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and we type in all of the numbers to see what works, and we've been able to create the numbers that you should be lifting from the very first week, from every single session on all the main lifts.
Wow.
So we've covered all the exercise video tutorials for the technique, we've covered all of the load selection, and I'm personally online every single day on my Facebook forum where I'm speaking to all of my online athletes, giving them critique and feedback on their exercises and getting them stronger. So far we're up to, I believe it's week 20 of our program, and that's going to be ongoing. That's currently $15 a week.
It's worth $15 a week just for the load calculator.
For every part of it, I look at it going, damn. And everyone's coming to, there's a lot of people that run online coaching, and a lot of people are getting pissed off with me because it's like, why are you charging that amount? That's you're bringing down the value of our industry. I disagree because I believe there's so much free information available as well.
Absolutely.
You could say that that's bringing down the value, but I don't look at it that way. Like I said, I like helping people. You see these people, the education system now teaching how to arch in a bench press. Who's that thanks to? I'll tell you right now, I'll walk around Australia and see people arch back benching, and I'll ask them where they learned that from, and they'll tell me that they learnt it from me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there's
we certainly did.
As I said, it's not just because I'm the one that invented it, because I'm the one that's putting it out there. And not everyone, a lot of people have the mentality that their work shouldn't be given away for free because they've done their time and they deserve to be paid for what they do. I don't know. I love helping people.
People are always going to pay you top dollar to walk them through it, though, and that's the beauty of it.
I absolutely agree, because it's not just about arching a bench press and it's a 2-second tutorial. There is so much to it. You and I have both been learning every day for 15 years. There's a lot more to learn than just watching someone arch on a bench. There's so much more to it. So if I can give away a 5-minute tip, that's nothing. I won't even call it the tip of the iceberg. That's nothing. So
where can we find? I've got the page up now. It's AustralianStrengthCoach.com.
That's it.
And it's if you're ever looking, the strength system is Bass's program. It's honestly probably arguably one of the most comprehensive programs. I've had a little flick through. I haven't actually done it or anything, but I've seen Bass train. To answer quickly Alex Allen's question before, the reason why Bass has such a good understanding of auxiliary work and all of the bits and pieces that go there is because he's not only done a shitload of education himself and courses and training and aligned himself with the best people in the world, he's put everything to practice for the last 15 years on a day-to-day basis. You and your brother have probably one of the most diligent work ethics I've ever seen. And I mean that in all sincerity.
Thank you, man. It means a lot coming from you guys who probably have even a better work ethic.
Look,
I haven't seen you guys stop since I've known you either.
When I used to train with your brother, he'd come to the gym with the flu, and I'd say, he'd go, man, I'm fucking sick today. And I'd say, yeah, what are you going to do? Go home? He goes, fuck that, I'm coming to train.
He's still the same.
Yeah, it's just insane.
He's don't get him out of his routine.
Yeah,
he won't like you.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, and look at the results. I mean, I bump into friends all the time who we started out with, and they generally don't look as good a shape as most of us do. So we've tapped into something, whether it's this intrinsic motivator, whether we're doing the right things, whether we're the smartest dudes. I don't know. I don't think so. The most obsessed and maybe the most deranged. I don't know. But we are doing something right. So definitely. It's working. We're almost 40 now, and we look better than we did when we were 30. So
and I hope we can keep doing it for another 10, 20 years. Keep going.
Absolutely. Bass, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, brother. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I look forward to doing it again.
Congratulations for being the strongest dude in the country at 110 kilos, mate. Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, what a show. This was a big one. We won't do our usual study review today because I don't want to bore you guys. You've got enough information out of that interview. We will be returning next week on Tuesday. We've got an awesome, I think we've got a really good nutritionist coming on board. She's unreal. I've been friends with her for many, many years. And I want to talk about pre and postnatal nutrition because I've had a lot of girls asking me this, and I'm a big believer that, men and women should have themselves in the best shape of their lives going into raising a family, not just because of the chances of having a healthy baby, but fucking keeping yourself sane. And it's probably something we could talk to with you and your wife as well, man. Anyway, guys, I'll leave Rad to give his finishing comments.
Yeah, and of course, thanks to Bass. But also another one that we'll be looking forward to having on the show is going to be Bass's wife Felicia and her sister Diana, who are the faces, the brains, and everything else behind the sensation Base Body Babes. And they'll be on in the coming weeks coming up to talk all things women's fitness and women's strength training and training to be strong rather than training to look good. So and
looking good is just a nice side effect that comes along with it.
It very much is. And if you want to go and check out Base Body Babes, you'll see that they know what they're doing. They create great results. And so thanks again, Bass. We'll see you soon, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Health is about performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.